I love that. It comes up across your face. You are live. And I'm like, more than you think. So a little play on words there. All right, everybody. So got to working in this room. Got a few things, a few irons in the fire. And I figured I'd slow down because it has been a very fruitful week, which surprised me. Really surprised me. Got a lot of great things. I think I have them all here in front of me, and got a few things from eBay, got a few things for my birthday, and then went to the mall to do some shopping, and we ended up finding out that apparently once a month now, John C's out there. What's up? Hey, thanks, man. Hey, thanks. Appreciate it. But come to find out that it's official. Apparently, they're back to the way things were pre. What's the word I'm looking for so I don't get like tagged by the YouTube algorithm there. But anyway, pre whatever we cannot say and stuff. But once a month, beginning of the month, the local mall here is having a comic/card show, and it's more of a card show, sports cards, that sort of thing. But people were able to set up, put out comics if they want, sell whatever, you know. But the people who I usually buy these comics off of in the mall, sometimes they're beat up. Sometimes I don't ask questions where they came because like they have some really good stuff, really cheap. And they're going to be back on the beginning of each month, first weekend of the month. They're back. They said they'll be back in April. So I'll be going back up there because some of the books I got, they were 50 cents a piece. And they're a little bit, some of them are a little bit beat up, but, you know, 50 cents a piece. So I hardly ever really like push social media too much, but if you want to kind of see some of the books that I've been getting and some of the things I'm going to be showing, hit me up on the Instagram as Howler Mouse on there. Really good community on there to look at comics and stuff as you play around. So we got some people out here. What's going on? We'll do this real quick, and then I'll get to the books because I got some really good stuff. The only thing I got to decide is, do I want to start weak and end strong, or do I want to go ahead and show you the guys? Prowler's out there. Rob Ripa is out there. And, oh, look at this. Look at this. There's somebody that is on the Instagram with us. Dark Hawk #1 newsstand for 50 cents. That's a nice snag. There's a catch, though. There's a catch. I'll show it to you because I'm, like, brutally honest about this stuff. But, yeah, I posted a little short video on Instagram showing my haul real quick. And Vincizio's out there. I just got a commercial that your young, beautiful, single Slavic girls would like to meet me back later. Brother, hope that works out for you, you know. Got to be careful who you meet on the internet. Anyway, so we're going to do the 50-cent haul, and then I'll get to the good stuff. Okay, we'll do it that way, man, since everybody's kind of rolling in and stuff, right? Because I got some really good stories. So right off the bat with what Sanctuary Reality was talking about is that I found a Dark Hawk #1 newsstand edition for 50 cents. Now, for anybody that, oh, what's going on here? One more person here. Hey, good to be here. Charleston 66 made it. Great to see you. Make sure you give me a call about that fanzine we're bringing up, brother. Give you a few details. But anyway, got a Dark Hawk #1 for 50 cents. And for anybody that's, you know, the thing about YouTube that cracks me up is that I have been watching YouTube probably since about 2006 and probably started making videos 2011, uploaded a few things before I got to the comics. Didn't even know there was a comic community on here, right? And it blows my mind how YouTube seems to have its own ages, if you will. I mean, I remember when it was Chocolate Rain in Shoes, Dramatic Hamster, and then it seems like things went in a weird turn there to where it was like edgelords and things like that, and then reaction videos and boob tube. These were all things, you know. And then it's like everybody had the videos where they would be in a corner of some room that they painted a really weird color, you know, kind of a pastel blue sometimes or a pastel color. And then they would play like Nintendo game theme music, or, you know, behind, you know, in their videos as they spoke and stuff, and would just talk. And then it became like edgelords, and then it became like SJW, which is still kind of going, but now it seems like it's going into like speculation and weird things like that. It's just kind of weird to see the ages. So if anybody remembers, somebody found out that Marvel had trademarked the name Darkhawk again, or they did something, which doesn't mean anything. So everybody started speculating it might pop up in a movie or something, right? So Darkhawk #1, one of the worst comics, in my opinion, to come out of Marvel. It came out in 1991. My brother collected it and loved it. And when I would watch it, I was just sort of like, what is this? You know, it was its own thing. This is right before Image took off, like 1991. So I read these from my brother, and I never took the book serious. So now we live in an era where a book like this can all of a sudden become a key for people they want to track down and get. Now, whenever this stuff happens over the years, I'll pop up at a flea market and something like that just to kind of prove a point that if you get off the internet, which I'm not putting it down, it's not the end all be all of collecting. But if you're able to get out, and if you are able to have things around you, if you get out and do a little hunting and a little digging, you'll find things. So this was 50 cents. Now, by no means do these people think it was a key, but let me be very clear here. This is a little bit of a beat up copy. And the worst thing on it is it's got a dog ear on it, and that's it. It's folded over. That is something that could be pressed out if you were really into that. But yeah, it just kind of cracks me up. So yeah, it was a great, and I went through and I flipped through it, and I need to be a little bit more forgiving on Darkhawk because there's a lot of really nice work out there. Can you guys hear me? I just realized I have my microphone way over there. Is that better? Okay. After I do a big rant and realize my microphone is way over there. But anyway, I got in there, and there's a lot of really good work in this, right? There's a lot of detail, a lot of background, a lot of world building. There's not a lot of shortcuts. And with the decompressed story style that's been around for like a decade, if not more, I can appreciate this stuff a lot more. A lot of ink on this, a lot of ink. So I totally get how this thing was in its own world. And I think it was around issue 25 or something like that Darkhawk finally took his mask off so we could see what he is. So I may have to Google that and see what he looks like underneath there. But like I said, my brother back in the day would get this, and I would read his. They also had Nth Man coming around the same time, and I really enjoyed Nth Man, for you people that remember that. Okay, now that people can hear me, thank you. Everybody's saying it better. I appreciate it. We're in this together, guys. We are in this together. So something I kind of grabbed, you guys know I'm a Legion of Superheroes fan, but this is issue 325, and it says Tales of the Legion of Superheroes, right? This is the last story before they started reprinting the Baxter series that started in 1985 or 1984. And this is from 1985, about a year later. So what happened is in around 84-ish, you had the Teen Titans go to a Baxter series, and then you had the Legion of Superheroes go to a Baxter series, and you had books like Omega Men that were a Baxter series. The trick with the Baxter series is that you could only go to a comic book shop to get those. They were called direct market. Direct market meaning that it was on special paper, higher quality. But if you waited almost a year, you could get it in reprint from the newsstand edition. So I just kind of got this because there's a little bit of a gap. You had the Legion of Superheroes newsstand edition going for a year while the Baxter series was going on, a year ahead of what was going on in these books. Of course, that isn't comic book time, but our time. So yeah, I kind of grabbed this. It's got a really nice, I'm not a Dan Jurgens fan per se, but I don't hate Dan Jurgens, if you will. But that's a pretty good cover. That is a great cover there to end it. And it kind of cracks me up because in the last 2 or 3 pages, it kind of has some of the Legion of Superheroes members talking to you, explaining how they're going to be a reprint series next. Now, what was cool about the newsstand editions of these Baxter series is that they had all new covers. And they had some really nice covers. I would have bought, some of them I bought just for the covers. There's a new Teen Titans with a Barry Windsor Smith cover that introduced Cole, probably about 4 or 5 months after she died in Crisis on Infinite Earths. She was a Titan that was created to die in the Crisis and stuff, right? But a year later on the newsstand, we were just getting introduced to her. So yeah, I kind of got that, picked that up. I'm all, big fan. I got this completely from the Mike Mignola cover, right? So if you're watching this video and you're sort of like, hey, I'm a Batman fan, I may want to go out and get this. Oh, wow. And all this stuff. I don't recommend this, but they were doing a series of Elseworld annuals in 1994. And this one ties into Leonardo da Vinci and Batman. And the best thing about it is the Mike Mignola cover. I tried to go ahead and get aside and read this. I didn't get very far. Maybe if I hang in there, there might be something a little bit more credible and stuff, right? But like I said, it was 50 cents. This is in mint condition. This is a book that I can see being cracked over one time opened one time and then put up. But the Magnolia cover, man, he was all over the place in the early 90s just doing covers and stuff. Probably pre-Hellboy, if I had to guess, right? This is a key book, and I can't really remember why, because there's several with Tim Drake and Jason Todd and stuff, right? But I got this. It's a Norm Brayfogle art. I dug. I was really into Norm. Two guys that I really liked was Kevin Nolan and Nolan Brayfogle, because I never felt like they really got the credit they deserve. They were awesome stuff, right? So we got a Batman 456 from 1990. Tim Drake sitting there talking to the ghosts of Robin's past, if you will, told that if he doesn't follow orders, he's fired before he's even hired. So he's going through his head with a Batman and things. Again, one of those books that was hot for a while. I have no idea if it is or isn't. But like I said, pretty much close to a mint condition for 50 cents. So I was like, yeah, I'll grab it. I've had this book in the past. Not sure what happened over the years. So that was kind of cool. Oh, cool. I was going to do some... yeah, okay. Oh, I love these. Sexuality. He remembers the Nth Man, the ultimate ninja. I like the Nth Man. It was cool. Talking about Dan Jurgens, he created Booster Gold. Don't you hate him? You're very forgiving. I don't hate Dan Jurgens. I have absolutely nothing against Dan Jurgens. I hear he's a nice guy, but I hate Booster Gold. I really do. I've got a freaking 20 or 30-minute video from like 2014 where I just didn't really get rolling until the last 10 minutes of why I hate him. It cracks me up. Vidal. Good day, Tim. Is it your birthday? It was last week. I just finished rereading that Legion issue this weekend as I've been going through all my Legion books. I've got, going through Legion books, you end up going down with what happens with me. Let me calm down there. With what happens with me is I'll end up going down the rabbit hole with the Legion. You know, I'll pull issue or two out from one volume, and then I'll want to go back to another volume. And then I'm like, well, that reminds me of another story. So I'll go back even further. I got to watch myself with the Legion. Okay. The 1994 Elseworlds annual with the Byrne Superman and Revolutionary War was great. I have that. It was great. Byrne returned to Superman. That was awesome. Oh, thank you, Charlton66. Appreciate it, Steve. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Spoiler alert in a 25, 26-year-old story there, guys. Be careful. Now, these, I had a chance to get when they came out, but this came out in an era where there were tons of books to pick from, and not all of them were great. And I'm pretty sure this is from close to the mid-90s, and I should have got it because it has one of the greatest pencilers ever to grace the comic book pages, Jackson Butch Geist, right? Love that guy's stuff. I'm so glad that he had a comic book style that did not get dated, like through the 80s and stuff like that. To me, this is a guy that kept blossoming as an artist, if you will, right? But Chris Claremont came on, and he had been off X-Men for a while, and he had Sovereign 7 going on, and he did an issue or two of Wildcats and introduced the Huntsman. And somewhere around that time, he wrote a 12-issue miniseries, Aliens and Predator, Deadliest of the Species. I didn't pick it up because there was so much to buy back then that I just didn't jump on this. Some of the work that I had read after Claremont's X-Men I felt sort of weak or X-Men-like, if you will. So when I saw these again in mint condition, great cover, by the way, there, I was like, yeah, I'll pick them up. It's I got the first 4 issues of a 12-issue miniseries. These are bound to be cheap if I could find them. So there you go. A little Aliens and Predator. And it's really odd how I am getting quite the collection of Alien books from Dark Horse from back in the day. They are popping up left and right. And that wasn't really my cup of tea back then. When it came to a licensed property, I really had this thing that the people who weren't working on the property were involved. I didn't really want to get it. I got the TSR books, like Forgotten Realms, when TSR got a licensing deal with DC to put out some books, Dragonlance and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, some Forgotten Realms, and seems like there was another one, Spellbinder or something. I think that's right. But anyway, that was kind of cool because they had people from TSR actually involved in those books. That's what was so cool. So there's just kind of something about felt like fan fiction. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with fan fiction, but yeah, there we go. Here we go. What we got here? Gore Vidal, on the Chaos show last week, Jared announced the fanzine you are working on. Awesome. I suggested the first issue cover should have a thinking Tom Strong sitting on Booster Gold. That sounds fantastic. I've actually been working on an article or so, editorial article for that, and I've got a few pieces of art floating around here. I want to see what I want to finish to kind of put in there. We're kind of recruiting a little bit. So I'll go back and see what Jared said about it and stuff. So that's awesome. So there'll be an announcement about the fanzine in the future. Okay. Let's let this internet get situated. There we go. Now this next set of books. Now, this is one of those books that was cool in the 80s, in my opinion. To me, it is sort of a staple of the 80s. Well, maybe not a staple, but it is of its era, if that makes sense. And a lot of people seem to really forget that it is a spinoff of the X-Men. And it's a book that its creator and writer and artist, turns out, did interviews where he said he did not want to be doing the book. But what's really cool about these two issues is that in collecting, there's a way you can collect where you follow a writer from series to series that they're on, because sometimes they'll carry on one story with a character through those books. In this particular example of what I'm about to show is that it was the Super Skrull. Super Skrull story got started in Fantastic Four, and then it moved over here to this book. And then I think it got picked up in Namor and finished over there when he was on Namor. And it was Alpha Flight. But what is really weird is that it's these two issues of Sasquatch-centered stories and the Super Skrull-centered stories, number 9 and 10, that they disappear from my collection. Again, the reason I'm having so many little odds and ends and confusion and not sure what happened here lately is because I'm picking up books and filling them back in. So these are great stories. These are reader copies. I will be upgrading when I can, so I can have my run uninterrupted, if you will. But I was kind of wondering why would these two issues kind of disappear? John Byrne. Okay, maybe it's a John Byrne fan. Maybe something's going on. I don't recall selling them. And then I got into this issue and started flipping through and reminiscing about that story. And then I realized, oh, that's what it is. It's a jeweler special. Comic books came out and on the newsstand, and some would not have this catalog right dead in the middle of it, and some will. And some collectors feel like the jeweler's special editions or whatever the jeweler catalog stuck inside these books made them a bit more rare. I've seen many things come up where I've actually seen them listed in price guides as being a jeweler edition, and it's worth more, but this particular I've never seen. So somebody who knew their stuff, maybe they bought it off me, maybe I wasn't aware, but yes, it's a jeweler special. You can get your class ring or whatever. I just love the fact that this went on for years, having advertisements in comic books for those rings, which cracked me up. So yeah, that's one of the things to look out for with some comics and stuff. Okay, moving right along. We'll go through the next bit pretty quick because it's nothing too special, but I grabbed these. Now, Alpha Flight number 27 and Alpha Flight 29. For real, for whatever reason, two more books that seem to disappear, right? This top shelf over here has my Alpha Flight run, so they're accessible. They've always been out, right? But issue 27 was kind of beat up for years, and it was just kind of gone. It led up to a Secret Wars 2 crossover event. Oh, we jumped way ahead there, didn't we? Yeah. So issue 28 was came after this, had the Beyonder on the cover, right? And something amazing was going on because Bill Mantlo and Mike Mignola were on The Incredible Hulk at the same time that Byrne was doing Alpha Flight. So at the end of the next issue of Alpha Flight number 28 that came out, they end up fishing, and I mean literally fishing with a fishing rod, a cosmic fishing rod. They end up pulling out the Incredible Hulk, who in his own book had been traveling in between realities because he was so savage. He was banished there by Doctor Strange or something, and they bring him out. The very next month, Mignola and Mantlo and John Byrne switched books. Byrne started his Hulk run. Mike Mignola and Bill Mantlo took over Alpha Flight, traded books. Thought that was pretty cool. And I cannot find number 29. I had it and it was beat up, but I can't find it. So this place had it in the 50-cent box. I was going through and I thought I grabbed it. I get home all excited and I've got to put these books up and get them cataloged. And then I was like, I didn't get it. We did end up having to go back to the mall the next day. There was something my wife needed. And when I went over there, somebody had bought up almost the entire Byrne run. Probably the first 36 issues were in there with scattered issues after that, all the way up to like the last issue of Alpha Flight. So at one point, they had an entire run of Alpha Flight in that box. Somebody had bought them and they got number 29. So this is what I'd gotten that day going through my list. Number 49. Now, number 50, I know I sold because they had Loki pop up. And we come to find out that North Star and Aurora were not mutants. They were trying to say they were half fairy, and I was like, I'm done. The next issue, Jim Lee debuted. I have 2 copies of that. So now I'm going through there and I'm getting the issues within the 50s. I'm probably going to get about the first 70 issues complete because Jim Lee came on and they introduced the Dream Queen and the Jade Dragon. That's early Jim Lee art. So I grabbed some of those early issues of Jim Lee. Yeah. The last stand of the Purple Man. They had the Purple Girl and the Purple Man in there and the Jade Dragon and the Dream Queen. It was really kind of cool because Alpha Flight was just its own thing. And every now and then they would cross over with an Avengers or they cross over, probably get a bump in sales or something. Ooh, look at this. All right, I remember ripping out a few of those. I remember ripping out ripping those out of a few books. The Jeweler specials, yes. Sold on military bases with the Mark Jewelers ad. Thank you, Charlton66. The Mark Jewelers ad. Byrne's Alpha Flight was a really good run. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. It just weirded me out when I found out he didn't even want to do the book. I saw the very interview. And it's on YouTube somewhere. Byrne's sitting there saying that he couldn't understand why Alpha Flight should have its own book. They were just created sort of like a plot device in the X-Men books back in the day to kind of flesh out Wolverine a little bit. Byrne leaving Alpha Flight killed me. Alpha Flight was my absolute favorite series. What was going on? It was definitely one of those books that it really built up from issue after they killed Vindicator, Gladiator, whatever you want to call them. When they killed the Hudson dude. All of a sudden, it was sort of like the book really took off after that, in my opinion, with where it could go. Heather McDonald was a very interesting character, which I thought was just spot on. I mean, and I'm talking about like characterization, what was going on with her. That very underrated character, at least in Byrne's hands. And Puck. I couldn't get enough of Puck at the time. I wanted him to have his own series. Puck was created by John Byrne's wife. That's what's so cool about it. And then they found out that he was like hosted. He had some sort of Arabian, I don't want to say demon, but he had like this black, I want to have to go back and read more than just the Byrne run again. But Puck ended up, turned out he had lost his height because he had taken inside of him like this Arabian, I don't know, demon spirit or something that he held encased inside himself. I didn't know what I thought of that. So, I was just sort of like, what? Dwarfism caused by, keeping a demon trapped inside you. I don't know. But Puck was very cool. I love that Puck and Marina really sort of took off with some people, right? So to get through these 50-cent books, I'm always picking up, stuff like this, Super Team Family, some reprints, some original stories, Challengers of the Unknown, Doom Patrol. I have a very soft heart with, some Silver Age stuff. I'm not going to lie, Challengers always sort of piqued my interest. It's Kirby related. Doom Patrol, love Doom Patrol, And then I'm doing this thing where I'm picking up the Infinity Gauntlet crossovers. I'm all over the place, guys, I know. But Infinity Gauntlet, when it came out, if you remember, on the corner of a lot of books, they would have an Infinity Gauntlet crossover. You had an Infinity War crossover, then an Infinity Gauntlet crossover. So I've gotten the DC 1 Millions. I think I might need 1 or 2 books. I have all the Secret Wars 2 tie-in books. I think I might need 1 or maybe 2 Crisis on Infinite Earth books. So now I'm like, well, if I run across them cheap, I'm going to start getting the Infinity Gauntlet crossovers. And that's probably where I'm going to stop with not buying new comics and stuff these days. There is a loophole there. And then I was really surprised, but I'm going to finish this series. I love the reference material. Okay, I love the Who's Who's. I love the official handbook of the Marvel Universe. I love. I've got some other, Who's Who in the Legion, Who's Who in the Star Trek universe, official handbook of the Hyborian Age. I love all that reference material, and I love the Secret Origin books. Right. So now I knocked off two more. I bought these. I would buy Secret Origins off the stand, but I would pick and choose because with my little $5 a week allowance at the time, it was He-Man and going to the skating rink, and then I had to pick and choose my books and stuff. Right. So sometimes I would skip these. Right. But these are really cool reference materials. A lot of them are just retelling the stories, and they give total credit to the original teams on these, no matter how far back they go. Shadow Last by Paul Levitz and Tom Mandrick, better than I thought it was. Doll Man by Roy Thomas and Murphy Anderson. And Murphy Anderson, in the end of this one, gets to have a little editorial how he talks about he was something like 13 when Doll Man first came on the stands in like 1939 or something. And he was there. So he was just ecstatic to be able to get on Secret Origins and do a Doll Man story, retelling the very story that he picked up off the stands. Stuff like that is why I love some of this stuff. I mean, I love, I totally get getting the trades. They're all over the place. You see what I get in, but sometimes when you get the original floppies, you find things like that you're not going to find on the internet or find in articles and stuff, right? So that was very cool. Now, the thing with Doll Man is that I totally admit that's a silly costume, right? I'm sure it was of its era, but the thing about it is that I saw this Doll Man cover years ago, and I think I'm probably going to Google it tonight. I could Google it now, but I don't want to interrupt the stream here, right? But it was the most, I swear it was like the most, I don't know, brutal thing I had seen done. You got this tiny little man, and somebody had taken Doll Man and put him under a sink faucet, and they had tied his hands back to the hot and cold knobs there, and he was sitting there getting drowned on and I mean, I was just like, who thinks of this? So somebody was sitting there. They could have just killed Doll Man, but they went ahead and decided to tie him up and waterboard his butt with a common kitchen sink. When you turn household appliances into your tools of death, I'm just like, it puts a dent in my brain. I don't know about you, but and I'm like, oh my God. So that's the 50 Cent books, man. So who we got here? William Byrd hated Mantlo making that Punk's origin. The Bronze Age. See, I like the whole idea that, what was his name? Judd, right? Puck was just this Canadian tough guy who hung out in bars and had a cauliflower ear from fighting. You know what I mean? Like, he'd go in and pick a fight, but he would come out smelling like a rose. You know what I mean? He knew what he was doing. The Bronze Age reprints were how we learned to appreciate what came before. Absolutely. I mean, I was raised on them. I feel like with what I was reading as a kid. Happy birthday. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. Oh, fantastic. I appreciate that. One Secret Origin issue had Englehart and Rogers revisit Batman. I think I have that one, and it also has the second story being Halo from the Batman and the Outsiders. Maybe I'll do a video of those. Sam, what's up, brother? If they're affordable, I like original issues the best too. You get the bulletins and editorial pages plus letter columns. Yeah, there's so many more things make the comic than just the main story. So going back again to 1989, right? This usually I pick up a book and I can tell you what was going on around me. It'll kick a memory, right? And I can be transported back. What's going on with the camera? So I get transported back, right? And I can think of things, but not this time. This time I was so mesmerized by the cover of this book. And I remember seeing it in advertisements because there was no comic book shop, like I've said, where I live. And I knew it was out there. But, I'm in high school, and that's a world away to get anywhere. And it really sort of ate me up that I could not get this. I really wanted it. And then I would see the poster. I had friends who had the freaking poster. I can't remember who the friends were. I can't remember what house I was in, but I had the distinct memory of seeing that poster at least 3 times around. And when I see this poster, this is one of the few images that really makes me nostalgic for the 80s. Now,
in the 80s, in my opinion, for you people who were there and people who are, who may be more seasoned than I am, who have more vivid memories there if you were a bit older than I was. But by 1985, the bright colors of Cyndi Lauper and everything were sort of fading away. And things were going to sort of pastel colors, getting darker. And then by 86 and 87, you had like videos that everything was sort of black and it had foggy in the back. And then every now and then you'd get a blue tone over the videos. George Michael's Father Figure. Great song. I said it. But you go back and everything started sort of having a blue tone. So by 1989, when I saw this cover, and I know there's one or two people who know what I'm talking about. I really wanted this book, yet I haven't heard anybody ever really talk about it. Like it's one of those books they had to have. I haven't seen anybody really showed in videos and stuff. I've heard everybody talk about the character, but I had to get this hardback. It was the return of Steve Grant and Mike Zeck and John Beatty to The Punisher in this hardback one shot, The Big Nothing. Now, in 85, I believe it was, 84, 85, feel free to correct me. I'm going by memory. I have a video where I show where I even bought that first issue. That Punisher was, a character who kind of popped up in other books. Punisher by this time, and they came out that miniseries, which just blew me away. I think they call it Circle of Blood now or something. They reprinted it. It was like 5 issues. I think it was starting out at 4, and it was so popular they gave them an extra issue. So they returned to it, and this is in the Epic line of comics. Where is it? Yeah, the Epic. Maybe it's, yeah, Epic Comics. So you didn't really know if this was in continuity or not. It probably wasn't. And I think the only other Marvel character that Epic Comics really did something like this with was Elektra. Neither one really get talked about, so whatever happened with Epic, but I kind of assumed this was so they could tell a more mature story, if you will. Now, by today's standards, it's probably nothing. But this image, to me, when I think Punisher, I think the only artist that should touch him is Mike Zeck. Mike Zeck puts character in that face. If you go back, look at Punisher War Journal with what Jim Lee was doing, great art, but when it came to expressions in his face, it was very generic. Mike Zeck puts something in there, and everything he touches has weight. I mean, I can feel how heavy those guns are. And he does this great thing where he adds just a touch of perspective to everything, which gives it more depth. And, of course, the use of blacks and stuff. So I'm assuming where this was in the Epic line, it probably had better coloring and things like that, The Big Nothing. Now, it took me a while to find this because I'm a cheap bastard. And I wanted to get a decent price for this, and I wanted one that looked fantastic as much as it could be. So you talk about a lot of patience looking around eBay and keeping an eye out at cons and stuff. This is probably 2 years that I finally got around to find one I was comfortable with from a seller who had great feedback, and it paid off. Really paid off. So this is fantastic. And just to kind of give you an idea, but this poster, I looked up trying to get this poster before, and the poster is worth more than the book. I've seen the poster go for $80 to $100. The original poster from 89, 90 of this cover. The poster is worth more money than the book. That blows my mind. And just to kind of give you a taste here of why I'm like such a huge Zeck fan. I mean, look at that. Oh, I could just stare at Zeck art over and over and over. Okay, so now I want to kind of show a few more things. What do we got here? Here we go. I like Zeck's art. He did some of the best covers of all time. I never saw him after the late 80s. Mike Zeck is the definitive Punisher artist from Stay Puft 83. It's awesome that we have some like minds out there. So this came in today. I got 3 more books to show, kind of the one I'm about to show you. This came in today. I usually do the great G-Mart comic book hauls where I get my online store. I show what accumulated over months to the value of $85 so they can ship it to me for free. And that has just dwindled. I had the CLZ app on my phone, and you can actually click a section where it will show all your comics that came out by year. You can have cover year or actual year that came out. And you ought to just see, when I hit that, you can just see how the new comics are just dwindling over the last couple years to nothing. You know what I mean? So technically, this is a plot that was that came up that was the plot is from like 1986. Eastman and Laird came up with the plot to this book back in the 80s, and now here we are now, and it's starting to come out. But I got My Last Ronin #2. Now, so yes, it's a new book, but it's a story from the 80s that's getting fleshed out. So does that make it a new book? Don't go cross-eyed thinking of that. But yeah, so technically I guess I'm getting one new book, but it's a story that was written in the 80s. So go figure. Now, I don't know if I saw this online. I don't know if I read it on an article online. I don't know if I saw it in a comment on Instagram or if somebody said it in a YouTube video. But I thought it was the greatest little, the greatest thing said about any comic ever is that they said that Last Ronin is delivering in ways that Marvel and DC can't do anymore. And I just thought that is classic. That is fantastic. I love that. I thought that was the just greatest review for this book. First issue was solid, and I'm hoping the second issue is, which is just fantastic. I was actually thinking about doing this book and one of the other books I'm about to show in its own little video, but there's tons out there. There's already tons of people reviewing, talking about it. I get these books a little bit later than when they come out, so there's really no use. Maybe when I get the trade, because I'll tell you what, I'm putting these books up. I want to get the Last Ronin trade so I can easily pull it down and read it. I freaking love this story so far. It's fantastic. Here we go. More recent printing, Return to Big Nothing has been a clearance book at Books A Millions for a while now. A recent printing. Nice. Okay, mine is a first printing. Yeah, I've already checked it out. Mine is a first printing, but that's cool that it's at Books A Million, man. That's great that it's staying alive, Mastodon Comics and Music. I had the Kingdom Come and Intruder Punisher graphic novels. Fantastic. Stay Puff. I enjoy Last Ronin, but I just like the weird size of the book. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I'll be putting the books up. It is an odd size, which I'm sort of fine with. It's it's kind of going back to like its magazine roots a little bit, but I don't have one to compare. But to see what he's talking about, it's just enough, if you can see that, it's just enough to be an odd size. You probably need I'm going to imagine, I'm keeping mine on the shelf, but I have a magazine box I'm probably going to have to put it in. So yeah, just enough. I've got a few odd size comics like that. Okay, people talking about that. So let me put my Big Nothing up there. You got me all paranoid now. I'm like, I've already looked at it. I know it's a first printing. Yeah, 1989. Scared me there. It made me doubt myself. Okay, so this one is from a viewer. Now, I'm not going to say the viewer's name because over the years when somebody has sent me something, I have mentioned a name or two before, and then I would get a message politely asking me not to do that again. Completely understandable. And there's been times I asked beforehand, and there's times I just didn't think anything about it. I sort of got excited. And this is back in the days when I could shoot a video on my potato of a computer back then, and it would take 10 minutes to load. So that was really cool to get content out back then. As soon as I had the urge, it was nothing. I could do it in 10 minutes, come back, check everything, to have comments in 20 minutes and stuff, right? So you can go to my Instagram, and the person that sent this book to me, I tagged them in it. And there's, they have a comment there and stuff. I'm very appreciative, and it floored me when I opened this package up. Okay. It floored me. He told me he wanted to send me something. And the greatest thing about this is that it's one thing to get something this nice. It's another thing to also have somebody appreciate you and send you just a random act of kindness. That's great too. And that's awesome too. Things like that. If you really stop and slow down and think about it, man, that is really an honor. Okay. But the other thing is that I'm really glad that I have built up a reputation. I think, apparently what I've been told, I built up a reputation that I'm very appreciative of a lot of things in comics. And he found this book in a haul that came to his local comic book shop, and there was a bunch of signed books in there. And from the conversation we had, he didn't want some flipper to get it or somebody who wouldn't appreciate it. And since I've talked about Lone Wolf and Cub before, he knew that it would go to somebody who would appreciate it and take care of it. I totally understand that. So that was really that was a bigger compliment than actually sending me the book, to be honest. And I'm grateful for both of them. It doesn't dismiss either one. So that was really cool. But he sent me a Lone Wolf and Cub number 10, a series I love. I've talked about. I've shown him over here and stuff. But this is number 10, signed by Frank Miller. I was floored. I was floored when I opened this. So yeah. Thank you again if you're watching. And like I said, he's on the Instagram. He's tagged in the picture, man. But yeah, Frank Miller signed Lone Wolf and Cub. I just was not expecting that at all. So that was fantastic. All right. What we got here? We got people coming in. Pocan Joe has entered the chat. And what do we got here? Mastodon Comics Music reminds me of the Barrier series that Image put out a few years ago. Weird size. I'll tell you a weird size book. Mouse Guard. Wow. I mean, try to bag that book. Now, this is what the wife got me. We're at the last book. This is what the wife got me for my birthday. And you talk about knowing I've done well. That's all I got to say is I've done well, right? But she got this for me, and she not only got it, but she hid it in a closet probably like 2 weeks, and I never went snooping. But I got the Hellboy in Hell library edition. I finally had to look up and see what the actual title was because I went blank. But the last Hellboy story, where we see what it was all about, 10 issues of all the Hellboy in Hell tales, if you will, all the miniseries that came together, I guess, however it worked out. And then tons of sketches in the back by Mike Mignola. And there's a little forward by Scott Alley, who I guess is the editor and stuff, talking about they didn't add a volume number to this to go with the rest of the Hellboy library editions because this is just such a phenomenal story on its own. And I tell you what, I just started reading and I had to make myself stop or else I wouldn't have gotten anything done that day. So, yeah, I'm very happy to see this. I totally get why people go after these library editions. It made me want to get rid of my trades and single issues of Hellboy to get this. And Hellboy is very interesting for me because when Hellboy was announced to come out, I was totally turned off by the term Hellboy. I was going to stay away from it like the plague. I just was not. I have a thing where I do not like, and it's a personal thing. I don't preach to people. I don't judge people for it. It's a personal choice, but I do not like when people use religion in horror movies to scare you and stuff, right? I'm just not into that kind of stuff, right? Jacob's Ladder is about as far as I can go with some of that stuff, right? And then I turned around and I had the first appearance of Hellboy and I started reading a little bit of Hellboy here and there. And I totally got that it was a blue collar worker. I was like, oh, they made him an average Joe. Then little by little, I'd hear how Mike Mignola based his Hellboy's personality on his dad and all this stuff. And I was able to like ease up, so I didn't get the first appearance of Hellboy until I think around 99 or 2000. But I was probably reading Hellboy at least by, I want to say 96. And I remember the very story I got. It was a one shot where he met a werewolf in a tower somewhere. Yeah. And I sold it because I ended up getting the trade that had it. But yeah, it was a one shot, maybe in a collected story from Dark Horse Presents, if you will. But yeah, usually I can remember these things off the top of my head, but that was a long time ago. It's amazing me how long ago the 90s were now. I was totally prepared for how long ago the 80s were, but now that I'm sitting here like realizing how far back we are, the 90s are, I'm like, whoa, But yeah, it was a werewolf story, and that's how you pulled me in because at the time I was playing White Wolf games, role-playing games with my friends. The girl I was dating at the time, my roommate and all our friends, we'd all pack up in my apartment. And we started out playing Werewolf the Apocalypse. And then we moved on to Vampire the Masquerade and Vampire the Dark Ages. So that Mike Mignola werewolf story fell right in line with being into those White Wolf games at the time. So yeah, that's what brought me in. What we got right here. Yep. Love the BPRD series. War of Frogs is phenomenal. They had an old school Marvel guy come in and do a one shot for that. Herb Trampe, maybe. Yeah, War of Frogs. I loved it. And actually, there's two my two favorite lines from Hellboy and all of his stories are, "Ma'am, you have frogs," and "Don't mess with me. I've been drinking with skeletons." Those are my two favorite lines from all the Hellboy stuff that I've read thus far. Maybe there'll be something in Hellboy in Hell. I have scattered issues and stuff, and at flea markets I found like the virgin cover variants and stuff that I sold to people when they saw it in my videos and stuff. All right, guys, that was awesome. And yeah, is this an Alpha Flight book? That is everything. That is the haul as of March 8th without me even trying. That's what blows my mind. I didn't even try to get this stuff. Just a lucky guy. That's all I got to say. Surrounded by great people and very appreciative of everything. So I tell you what, man, if there is a fire, there's a handful of books that I will make sure to grab. One is my Absolute Watchmen that all my friends bought when it came out when I had to move 3 hours away. One is the complete Frank Miller Batman from 1989 that my grandmother bought me. And it will be that Hellboy in Hell that my wife got me for my birthday. So that is just fantastic. All the comics that I try to talk about, some have stories behind them that I like sharing and I like remembering. And kind of like, I'm sure other people do that too. One last comment and then we'll get out of here. Hellboy, BPRD, and related titles are impressive. Most, if not all, written by Mignola. He has created an interesting universe from the Lovecraft books. Very interesting books. And the Baltimore books, I need to get back into those, which are just fantastic. But yeah, the Mignola verse is just fantastic. A lot of people there for a long time, would really put down the 90s saying it was full of garbage. I and a few other people have always said there was a lot of glut out there, but a lot of stuff, great stuff, did come out, and the cream rises to the top. And Mignola building this universe starting all the way back then is a big one, I actually do know people who got out of comics, but they kept getting the Mignola verse, if you will. So the BPRD books is what stands out in my hand when I've seen their shelves in real life, All right. Well, thanks for everybody that's popped in here. Great turnout, great comments, and I appreciate it. Thanks for putting up with my tired butt. I'm the kind of guy that is usually tired after work, but I'm antsy and I like to piddle. So there we go. And everybody be excellent to each other, man. Thanks for popping in. Later, guys.